I'm Debbie Moraes, and this is Legal Matters, the program that's designed to address some of the timely, critical, sometimes contentious matters that are addressing consumers and businesses today. It's legal information, practical solutions, and straight talk about a wide variety of topics that we've addressed over these past couple of years: finance, family law, mediation, personal injury, workers' comp, so many more. In most recent segments, we've been talking about family law, and in our last installment, we specifically were talking about divorce and financial planning, is a very particular subject that requires some specialty. And our guests had also invited an independent outside consultant who is a certified specialist. We are going to be touching on a topic that also is concerned with financials today, and we have with us once again from Audette, Bazar, Law Firm, Grasso Law Firm in East Providence, David Bazar, as we usually have, not Jackie this time, but with us, Bob Audette. Welcome.
Bob.
We're glad that you're
Nice
with
to
us.
be Bob.
Yeah, Bob is fine.
Good. And you're a specialist particularly in personal injury law, among others.
And workers' comp as well, yeah.
Good. And we're going to be talking about the process as well as the financial portion of it, which can be very difficult to wend your way through. So I think when you think about personal injury, it certainly has had a bad rap. People have attached ambulance chasing and stigma. There's certainly a lot of stigma attached to it. But certainly if you have a catastrophic situation, something needs to be addressed. So would you, number one, put a little perspective on that ambulance chasing situation such as it is, and also address what the process is about? David,
Okay.
Bob?
Well, you want to start?
Yeah, you hear that phrase a lot, ambulance chasing, and I always tell people there are good and bad in any profession. Right? If you're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're an attorney,
A plumber.
I mean, there are some that are good and there are some that aren't so good. There are some that are more ethical than others. All we can do in our practice is to address problems as they come into us. I mean, we're not out. I haven't seen David chasing behind any ambulances lately.
I wouldn't catch one anyway.
And,
I'm not
yeah,
as fast as
yeah,
I
I'm not a
used to be.
fast driver either, so I don't think I'd catch any. But the people are referred to us by word of mouth almost exclusively, and someone has a friend or a coworker or a relative who has a problem, and they've been in some sort of an injury or accident situation. They call us and they say, "Look, I'm out of work. There's no income. I need medical care." And especially in catastrophic situations, the whole life can be shattered and turned upside down. And what we simply do then is step into the breach with them and help guide them through this journey that they're going to be on, however short or long, and get them at the end of the day to be in as good a situation as they can be, physically, first of all, emotionally, financially, and that's what we do.
And it is, when we talk about catastrophic injuries, which Bob and I have worked on together and have handled quite a few, it's the financial aspect of what could be a very devastating injury, leaving you in a devastating situation, that we can best help people through. But it's not just that. For instance, Bob has just worked on a case where he worked daily with the family, getting them to the right medical facilities and making sure that this person's medical condition was as well cared for as it could be, as we then worked our way through the financial end of the case.
So I guess a good starting point that most people would understand: you have an automobile accident, you call your insurance company, they're settled, they know what's supposed to happen, and that's the end of that story. Is that where it should end? And evaluate that, not to denigrate insurance companies, not to actually put any kind of undue pressure on the victim, but what happens in an automobile accident relative to working with an insurance company or not?
Okay. Well, most accidents involve property damage only, car accidents. So you'll have, your car will be banged up and it needs to be repaired. I think in most cases, probably 95% of the cases, the individual can handle that on their own. It's a matter of getting a good appraisal, bringing it to a good auto body.
That's
a place
the biggest
that you can trust. Many of these insurance carriers today have their own appraisal operations. They'll come out and see the car. You just want to make sure that it's fixed to your satisfaction. It's as good as it was before.
And as Bob said, there are good attorneys, good lawyers, good doctors and so forth. There are good auto body places, and when you have property damage, you want to make sure your car's going to be fixed correctly, so you want to make sure you get to a reputable, good person who will help you through that process.
Yeah. When injuries get involved, then it gets a little bit more complicated, because now you don't just have the damaged car, and there are issues that go along with that. Do I need a rental? How long is it going to be in the shop? Lots of little things people don't think about. I call them aggravation costs.
Right.
You know, things that you don't really get paid for, but suddenly you're running around, making phone calls, doing things in a busy life that you really didn't need to do. But when you tack on injury to that, physical, injury, now you've tacked on a lot of other things. Okay, I'm hurting, where do I go? Who's going to take good care of me as far as a doctor is concerned? Should I see a chiropractor, an orthopedic surgeon? What's my problem is oftentimes the first, dilemma that the person has. And then secondarily, depending on how serious it is, am I out of work? Am I losing income? Right. Is surgery a possibility? All these types of things. And people, most of the time, as I always say, you play. Everybody gets up every day and plays their ordinary game of life. They go to work, they do what they're supposed to do, they take care of their families, they pay their bills, they get up the next day and do it again. But when you're hurt like this, it's suddenly you're plopped onto another game board that you're totally unfamiliar with, and that is a workers' comp situation or an automobile accident, and we know this game and we help you through it.
And you're playing a game that has a player on the other side, the insurance company, who plays it every day.
Right.
And they know the ins and outs of what they can do to minimize what they may have to pay out on a claim.
Right.
And that's where an attorney, a good reputable attorney that we're talking about, can help you to make sure you don't pass go without collecting your $200.
And you mentioned insurance companies earlier. Just like David had said, there's good plumbers, there's not so good plumbers, there's good lawyers, there's not so good lawyers. Well, there's some insurance companies that, or even people within a certain insurance company that might be more sympathetic or might take better care of you than others. That's just natural. That's human nature. And you always have to remember, we try not to put black hats on these people, but they have a job to do, and they are paid by this company, and their job is to pay as little out as they reasonably or possibly can on cases. Our job is simply to make sure that this person is treated fairly, that the scales are evened, that this playing field is level. That's what we do. And I think people, when they come to see us and they hear that, virtually every time they say, yes, we want you on our side, and we move forward with them from there.
So whether it was an automobile accident where someone had serious catastrophic injury or some other sort of personal injury, and they come to see a lawyer, what's the process? I imagine the first thing they're going to say is, what are you going to do? What's it going to cost? How do you walk someone through, so that I'm sure you have to educate them first. How do you do that? What is that about?
Let's talk about, first of all, it could be, and we can even give you some factual basis of cases we've heard and explain what we did.
That would be very helpful.
Because with a catastrophic injury, usually you're dealing with a family member first as an attorney, because the person who had the catastrophic injury isn't in a position to even talk to you. So someone comes in and says, for example, my wife or my mom or dad, and we had a case where a woman had slipped and fallen and injured herself to the point where she was now rendered a quadriplegic. She's in the hospital.
That's serious.
Very serious. And she's in the hospital, and they're coming to ask us what can be done to help her and what can you do to help us. So Bob and I, when we have a case like that, we'll talk to each other. And first thing we want to know is, where is the person? What treatment are they receiving? Are they receiving the right care? We want to make sure that they're getting the best care they can first.
And you can help with that part of it, the
Absolutely.
actual medical
And people
portion.
don't realize that. I mean, we're almost doing legal triage, I guess, in that first meeting. Number one, you want to get to know the person. You have to hear the story, and many times, not all the time, but sometimes they'll walk into the office and we don't know anything yet. We don't know a thing about this, and suddenly they're sitting across the desk from you, and you realize this is a really dramatically serious situation for these people. They are absolutely throwing their lives in your hands, and not like a doctor on the operating table, but everything else.
Certainly.
So you're trying to assess the situation. You're obviously giving them as much sympathy and concern as you can, because if you were in that chair, you'd certainly want it.
Yes.
But the expertise, David's point is well taken, the expertise isn't just legal. It starts with, what's this person's physical or mental issue, and what can be done about it. And when you do it as long as we have, 28 years or so, I hate to say, you know players, you know this state, we have a small state, you know who the physicians are, you know who the specialists are, you know the people you can trust, you know people at the tops of their fields, and now you're helping guide these people to the right care. And in cases like this paralysis case, or say a brain injury case, these people just don't know where to turn, so you're helping to direct them first and foremost to get the best care they can, and that's, people don't think that the lawyer is going to help there, but that's a big part of our job, especially early on.
I think, we can't get into specifics.